Hello everyone. Good evening once again, and I hope we can all hear me. All right. So, um, as we always do it, I'll invite Ahmed to start his section. But then before that, we began our journey with our onboarding meeting, and then we introduced the vision behind the World Campus. And then on the onboarding meeting, also we set the foundation for this journey, right? And we are doing that together. Now, after the onboarding meeting, we had our first ever section, which was basically last week, and then the focus there was on financial foundations and our own relationship with money, right? And then we understood there as well that before we manage money, we must first understand how we ourselves can relate with it. Okay, so um, we we explored a few things during the section, okay, where we saw that money is a tool and not a personal source, a personal scorecard, right? And then we also went through to say that to be able to go through this journey, we must be aware of some of these things, and then how our childhood experiences and then environments that we grew in uh, influence our financial habits. Okay. And then also there is one thing that we mentioned and we wanted everybody to uh, just do, which is pick one financial habit that um, and then monitor that consistently for the next 30 days. I believe we are all doing that. Um, can I see some reactions for that? If we've been able to do that from from our last section to, okay, that's great. Sorry. Okay, so today's section is going to be focused on income, our spending patterns, and then the financial truth behind our numbers. Now, one thing that personally I've been doing is that uh, I make sure I track almost everything that I do. So there is a particular app that I use, and then almost every major expense or money that I spend, anything that I use, any income that comes, I make sure I record that. So it helps me keep track of how much that is going from my pocket and then how much that is coming. Okay, at the end of the day, at the end of the month, at the end of the day, at the end of the week, or even at the end of the month, I get to understand how much uh, I had in total and then how much the total expenses that I made. Okay, so this will help you understand and be aware if you are spending more than you are earning or you are earning more than you are spending. Okay, so once you know this, you are going to know that there is going to be a surplus, something that remains, and it will only remain. There will be a remain or a surplus if you are earning more than you are spending, and then uh, if you spend more than you earn also, then it means that you are going to be in debt or nothing will remain for you to go on with the next section or proceed with if you want to invest or even save, right? So that is the focus for today. Again, is income, our spending patterns, and then the financial truth behind our numbers. So um, if so let's just go straight and then introduce Ahmed. Ahmed, if you can hear me, then I'll hand it over to you. Start the session, and then once we end it, then we can open the floor for questions.
All right, thank you so much, Sebastian, once again, and good evening to everyone here. I trust we are all doing well and we had a great day today. So, as Sebastian already talked about last week, we focused on awareness around our money, our behavior around money, and all that, and also that money is not a scorecard, but rather it is a tool. So this week or this tonight, we are going to focus on income, spending, and then the financial truth. So please, I am going to share my screen so that we can delve into it as we've already spent 10 minutes waiting for others to join us. So let me do that ASAP. And while I'm doing that, please let's note that this journey, it's not only about you being part of the cohort, but you have to be really intentional about that. And you can only be intentional by that by taking action, making sure that you join online sessions, ask questions, gain insight, and also you make sure that the workbook you use it as well. Without that, you just be a number to us, part of our data. That at the end of the first cohort, let's say 20 people joined and you were part of it, but then you wouldn't really benefit from it. But then our entire target or our goal and vision is by the end of this cohort, everyone should be able to achieve financial clarity and stability in their own life. But you can only achieve that through execution. So let's do what to be joining the sessions as well as also partaking in the exercises in the workbook. So I'm sharing my screen right away. Please, if you can see my screen, kindly react to it. Okay, this is great. Then let's officially begin tonight's session, which, as I already said, is on income, spending, and financial truth. So I begin by saying this, as we all can see on the screen, money problems are often clarity problems. And it's very, very true. Most of the times we are broke. Most of the times you don't understand our finances, where our money went, just because we lack the clarity. That is mainly the problem around our finances. So if you don't understand your income, if you don't understand your expenses, what you use your money for, then there's no way you are going to gain financial clarity because you lack the clarity around your money. So most of us, what we do is we avoid checking our numbers. We don't like checking our numbers. Say, how much do I have in my account? How much have I spent this? We like checking our balances in our account so that you know that, hey, I have 500 CDs in my account. But then we don't like doing the numbers, especially when it's come to our expenses. This week, how much did I spend? How much did I spend? And was it close to my target or the budget that I associated it with or not? And that is often the problem. And you have to understand this. Numbers are neutral. They are not biased. They are facts. What you have is what you are going to see. Okay, they are just information, not judgment. So they are information that will help you to decide, to make plans, adjustment towards your finances, and they are not going to judge you that you've been spending money on this. Why are you doing that or not? No, they are just going to give you the facts, and based on it, you are going to take action towards that. So you have to also understand that there's no way you can manage something that you don't measure. There's no way you can manage your finances, your money. If you are working, your salary, there's no way you can manage it and grow it without you, first of all, measuring it, knowing that how much have I been spending and all that. If you don't do that, then there's no way you can manage your salary. And also, you cannot improve what you refuse to see. If you think that if I check my numbers, then I'm going to feel ashamed of how I've been spending my money, and that I'm going to feel like I overspend money and all that, then you have to understand this. There's no way you can improve your finances when you refuse to see your numbers. So for today, just understand that numbers are really important. And that is why we are going to be talking about how you should start tracking your expenses so that the numbers can tell you the truth, what you've been spending most of your money on, and how you can work towards that. Now, let's talk about this. Income does not equal financial health. Yes, income does not equal financial health. So if you believe that currently I'm earning 7,000 cedis and that is a lot of money and that will bring me financial stability, well, I'm here to tell you that it's not going to happen. Okay, and this is a truth that most later, when it is almost too late, that in as much as our income was high, it doesn't equal financial health, financial stability, or clarity. It's all about And this is an example. The person earning 5,000 monthly who tracks nothing and saves nothing is in worse financial health than the person earning 100,000 monthly and saving 100,000. Saying, I think last week I even talked about this. It's not about how much you earn or how huge your salary is. It's about how you manage it. This city went to this place and you being consistent about that. It's all about that. So if you're a student currently and let's say maybe you have a monthly salary of 5,000 and you want to increase it to 10,000, based on your behavior towards money, it could be that you don't sit down to track you ask yourself, hey, where did my money go? Because you are not tracking it. I was a student once, and most of us were students, and I can say for a fact that there were moments that, I mean, our parents sent us money, let's say 200 CDs, 300 CDs, and within a short period, the money is gone. And the sad thing is, we end up asking ourselves, the money, what did I spend the money on? Because you don't recall it. And you don't recall it because you don't try to measure your income, you don't try to track your expenses and all that. Please, I hope you can hear me loud and clear. All right, so let's move on. That financial health is not determined by how much you earn. Let me repeat that again. Financial health is not determined by how much you earn, but rather it is determined by the gap between what you earn and what you spend, and whether that gap is intentional or accidental. So you can be earning your salary. What will determines whether you have financial health is the difference between what you earn and what you spend. So if at the end of the month your salary is, let's say, 5,000 cedis and you end up spending 6,000 cedis at the end of the month, then that means your gap is a deficit, and that means you will always be broke. You will always be broke looking for money. And someone will be asking, how come your salary is 5,000 cedis and you are spending 6,000 cedis? And this is where, like, you end up asking people like, oh, can I borrow 100 cedis from you? Once I receive my salary, then I'm going to repay you. All this, you are not going to be, determine it knowing that, hey, I've been borrowing money, I've been overspending. You won't know unless you are tracking your expense. And fixed expenses limit freedom, but flexible expenses reveal habits. So all of us say we have some fixed expenses in our life that includes rent, that includes recurring subscriptions, contractual obligations, and all that. But you have to understand that the more committed you are to fixed costs, the less flexible your life becomes. So if your salary is connected to a lot of fixed expenses, then you are not going to be having a lot of freedom, because no matter what, you know that I have to pay this because this expense is fixed and there's no way I can run or I can get away with it. And then the second point says flexible expenses reveal habits. Flexible expenses reveal your true financial habits. So you have to understand that flexible expenses are discretionary, and examples are the food, the transport, entertainment, personal care, and subscription, let's say especially data bundle as well. So these expenses reveal what you truly value and where your habits hide. I'm saying this because these expenses are flexible. You can decide how much you want to buy. You can decide that this month I'm going to spend 300 cedis on food, or you can decide to spend 500 cedis on food. It's based on your own choice, and that is why these expenses are flexible. And these flexible expenses reveal your true financial habits, because when you sit down to track your expenses, what you've been spending your money on, that is when you are going to realize that, hey, this week I've spent like 200 cedis on data, and I think I have to cut that. It's very, very important. So understand that your fixed expenses limit your freedom, but your flexible expenses reveal your financial habits. Now, the next point is talking about unconscious spending compounds quietly. This is very, very powerful, okay? Unconscious spending compounds quietly. So understand this. Small daily decisions shape monthly outcomes. And this, if you don't track your expense, this is where you end up saying to yourself, where did the money go? How did I spend the money or something as such? Do you understand? I'm saying this because let's look at the example here. If you spend 20 cedis a day without any thought, at the end of the month, that means you are spending 600 cedis per month. So ask yourself, how much am I spending data bundle on every day? So you might be thinking sometimes you are using your phone, watching maybe a movie on maybe on YouTube or something. Then MTN will send you a message. You spend 80% of your data bundle, and sometimes they give you the option of buying it right away. And you might be like, let me just buy it and continue watching what I'm doing. Then maybe you buy 20 cedis data, you don't even realize it. You don't even track it. You think that it's normal. 20 cedis after all is nothing. If you are earning 5K and you want to spend every day 20 cedis, you might think it's nothing. So let me just spend it. But look at here. Every day, if you are spending 20 cedis without deep thought, that means at the end of the month, you are spending 600 cedis. And now see something, at the end of the year, this 20 cedis will become 7,200 cedis. You see how huge it is? After all, this 20 cedis is nothing. But then at the end of the year, you'll be having 7,200 cedis per year. So this tells you that unconscious spending will always compound without you knowing. And that is why every day, I have a personal experience with this. I mean, my parents will send me money, and like I'll be trying to be economical, yet I'll end up saying in Chi like, the scan cry if I like you won't even know how like you spend the money. And it's because of this unconscious spending that you've been doing. And it's not about even 20. Sometimes some things as little as 1 cedi, 5 cedis, we think it's nothing. But when it compounds, you realize that it's really leaking your income. It's really, really leaking your income. So you have to understand this. And that is why when you track your expenses, you'll be able to identify these leaking expenses so that you can find a way to remove them from your life. So now the gap between, you see, earlier on, I said something like your financial health is not determined by how much you earn, but rather it is determined by the difference between what you earn and what you spend. So the difference, which is the gap, will rather create a stress or margin for you. So if at the end of the month, if your expenses match or exceed income, then you will always be living in financial distress, financial tension, and stress because always you are broke, always you are in need of money. And but rather, if the gap is a margin, that means every month you spend less than what you earn, then that means at least every month you be having some money aside for emergency, for investment, for personal development, and all that. So the difference between what you earn and what you spend will rather cause financial stress to you or financial stability to you. And this is it. So if income exceeds your lifestyle, then that will create space for choice. That means you have a lot of money that you can save, money that you can invest, money that you can help your family or others with, and money that you can even take calculated risk with. And that means you will never be under pressure. You will never be having like heart attack because you are owing someone money or something. So you have to sit down, reflect on your income and expenses, and then identify the gap. Is the gap ahead? I mean, is my expense, does my expense exceed my income, or is the alternative? And that alone will tell you the next action that you have to take. So now let's understand the reason why most of us, we don't like checking our numbers. We don't like checking our numbers at all. I used to have this same thing. Like, I don't like checking, hey, how much have I spent this week? It makes me kind of uncomfortable. That doesn't mean that I have to cut some expenses and all. I mean, we like to spend. I like to spend. We all like to spend. So if like we are checking our numbers, we feel some kind of uncomfortable. So now the main reason why people avoid checking their numbers, the first one is fear of judgment. we end up judging ourselves that how come I spend 400 cedis on data bundle just this month? It's too much. We end up judging ourselves and all that. So to avoid judgment, then if I don't check my numbers, after all, I'm not going to find my leaking expenses so that I'll judge myself. Then the second one is shame about past decisions. Yes, I talked about this earlier. You'll be like, so why? How come I spend this huge amount of money on this? Imagine that you are tracking your expenses and you realize that on the 13th of this month, or let's say last month, you spent 200 cedis on KFC. Perhaps you were feeling happy. If you are a student, let's say maybe you wrote a quiz and then you had 30 over 30. So because you were happy, you decided to do some small party for yourself and you spent 200 cedis on food. You might think, oh, I'm doing the right thing. But at the end of the month, when you are tracking your expense, you realize that, in as much as I was happy, I shouldn't have spent 200 cedis on food alone. So this will bring about like a shame, some level of shame about your past decisions. And to avoid that, people don't like checking their numbers and overwhelming with where should I start? If you check your numbers and you see like I'm spending a lot of money, you become some kind of overwhelmed. So where do I even start? How should I do it? What steps should I take and all that? So with all these situations that you are likely to face when you are checking your numbers regularly, people will end up not even checking it. People will end up not even checking it at all. But then you have to understand this. I said this earlier on at the beginning that the numbers are just facts. They are not there to judge you, okay? And the numbers are there whether you look at it or not. You can decide that me, I'm not going to track my expense ever, but the truth is the numbers still exist. It's just that you decided not to check it. Or you can decide that yes, I'm spending a lot, but let me check the numbers so that I can see where I can work on. So it's more like a choice to you. Whether you check your numbers or not, it exists. You can't do away with it. Okay. And And you have to also understand that when you see your numbers clearly, three things happens. Okay. The first one is the fear shrinks because knowing is always less painful than imagining. If you decide that, hey, I'm not going to be checking my expense because I may feel like shame or something like that, you have to understand that when you check the numbers, you end up being like, I was even over imagining. Is in as much as I'm spending a lot, but the truth is I'm not spending a lot. So this point is your patterns, your financial patterns or behavior becomes visible that were invisible before. So some things that you don't realize when you start checking your expenses, you realize that hey, I've been doing this and it's not helping. So I have to avoid it. I have to cut it from my life and I have to use it for something better. Perhaps when you like to buy right before you sleep. You like to buy, let's say, better more 10 CDs or something every evening before you sleep. You might think it's something normal. After all, 10 CDs is nothing. But when you check your expenses, you realize that, hey, I have been spending 10 CDs every day and it's not helping. After all, I won't die. It's not a need. Better malt is not a need, so I can cut it from my life. So then when you check your expenses, you realize that, hey, I'm not spending this because it's really a necessary or a fix from my life. And that will help you to reduce your expenditure to save enough money to invest, enough money to take calculated risk and all. So this week is all about facing your financial reality without any judgment. You are not measuring your worth, but rather you are measuring your starting point. So that is the insight for tonight. So I'll leave room for questions before I move on to the exercise. And once again, if there is no question, then that means everyone is going to talk. Everyone is going to share what's a brief insight about what they learned before we end. So for now, if there's any question, please kindly ask before I move on to the exercise. This week's exercise are really interesting. It's more practical, and I'm very sure everyone is going to enjoy it. Just two exercise, and it's not in depth. as compared to last week. So please, if there's any question, please kindly ask before I move on to the exercise. All right, so I think when I was presenting, someone asked a question that if someone expenses exceed their income rate, it creates tension or mental anxiety. How can one control the rate of excessive expenses? Because at the end of the day, these expenses will still be spent regardless. I believe, okay, let me answer this question that first of all, I believe that we can all manage our expenses. Right now, if you go and check your book, or if you go and sit down to reflect what you've been spending your money on, you realize that not everything was really important. Some were like a want. It's like you wanted, you see it to be like, I want it. Maybe you saw a nice shoe, you think that, oh, this shoe is nice. If I wear it, it's good. So let me go and buy it. But it's not really a need. It's not like without it you won't be able to survive or something as such. So if you check, that is why tracking your expenses is very important. Once you track your expenses, then you know that this kind of expenses are not really important and I can cut it from my life. So please, any question before I move on to the exercises?
Uh, I hope you can hear me. Sorry. Hello. All right. So here is it. I think our answer is from um, uh, a different perspective, saying that you must be disciplined if you know why you want to do a particular thing, right? So for me, it's discipline. Now, here is it. I do a lot of stuff, and then uh, my teaching, code champions, and all of that. When I go for a class, I don't go alone. I go with a team, right? There are two guys that helped, and then anytime that we close and we are coming, most of the time we just stop by and then get some burkina and drink. Now, over time, when I was tracking everything that I spent, I noticed. So I realized that this is unnecessary. Okay, and then I have to stop. But then there are times that I think last week we mentioned something like emotional spending. There are times that we will be coming and then we'll be like, oh, and then no broken and today no broken. Like then I'll feel like okay, uh, since they are helping, it's good to just do something for them. Okay, then again, I decided not to do it, but then I was feeling maybe their emotions and okay, they are helping, so you to do something to support them, and then I'll do it at the end. I go back to something that I've said I won't do. Over time it stopped. So I think the main thing also is that you are saying this is needed or you want to do this, you must also be disciplined to know which one is needed and which one you don't want to do alone.
Yeah, you are absolutely right. In every walk of life, discipline is important, and financial stability too is part of it. If you really want to achieve financial intelligence, sorry, financial clarity, stability, and freedom, then you really have to be very disciplined, very, very disciplined. In fact, all these things that we are learning, without discipline, you won't be able to see the results because if I talk about budgeting, the need for you to plan, and at the end of the day, you overspend, you don't spend within your budget. That means you are not disciplined. And without that, you won't be able to achieve what you want to achieve when it comes to your finances. So, financial discipline is very, very important, if not the most important aspect of it all. So, there is a question here that says, so, growing up, I used to track my expenses and I wasn't overspending. I was tagged as stingy because of that. Because of that, I changed from that and now I don't do that again. So, my question is tracking your expense and not overspending, is that stinginess? Wow. So, you also have to understand this. Let me start from the societal perspective. If you are doing something that the society is not used to, then people will start tagging you as giving you some kind of name. And we all know that financial intelligence is not common in our society. Not most people really understand that. So if you are doing that, of course, those who don't understand will end up labeling you as being stingy, that you don't like spending and all that. But you, the person, you know what you want to achieve. You know why you are tracking your expense. You know that when I track my expense, I'll be able to get enough money, cut expenses, get enough money so that I can invest in 10, 15 years time. That money, that expense that I have been able to cut and use it to invest is going to give me the financial freedom that I want. So you know what you want to achieve, and so don't let societal pressure, societal tagging, societal blackmailing, and all that affect what you really want to do. You know the importance of it. So then there's no need for you to, I mean, it hurts when you are doing something really cool. I mean, we all used to have friends. Imagine that your friends, you went to a program, and then after that, your friends be like, hey, yes, KFC, let's go and then get some chickens. But then it's not part of your budget. You know that this thing, this cost, I didn't plan for it, and it's not within my budget. So if I spend, it's going to affect me. And you are also afraid that if you don't spend, then your friends are going to tag you as being stingy and all that. I will always advise that go with your plan. Your friends, your colleagues will not understand you. And if in the next 10, 15 years, if you don't achieve financial freedom, these same friends, if they are rich, they are going to tag you as you didn't like plan your life well. So I'd rather that you follow your plans now, be consistent with it, be disciplined with it, and in the next 5, 10 years, people are going to see the difference. So there's another question that says, what are some ways people can reduce the gap between income and lifestyle? So this is all about budgeting, okay? If if you if you really want to reduce the gap between income and lifestyle, it has to do with your budget. And we all know, like, always you have, there's a rule for that that says that always go for your needs before your wants. But some of us, we spend on our wants, then the remaining money we spend on our needs, and that is where at the end of the day our income and our lifestyle is almost the same. Because if you plan well, you notice that okay, food is a need. So no matter what, I have to spend on food. So then let me allocate 50% of my money for food. And transport is also a need. Let me allocate that. Then the remaining, you will decide that okay, maybe let me allocate 10% for lifestyle so that that one I can spend it on anything I want. But once you receive your salary, then you go and buy dress, you go and buy clothes, shoes, and all that before you even start planning on food. Then always your lifestyle is going to be higher than your income. So I hope your question has been answered, Hannah. Okay, so let's talk about the exercise here. It's very, very important. And as I said earlier on, it's very practical. We are all going to enjoy that. So the exercise, which is exercise 3, if you remember last week workbook, it was exercise 1 and 2. So we are continuing with exercise 3, which is cash flow snapshots. So this is the most important financial exercise you do this month. It's very, very important. So what you have to do is you have to use your real figures from the last full month. So we are currently in March. That means February, all the full and real figures for February. Please, if you don't, if maybe you are not tracking your expense, then you can try to exaggerate. You can reflect, think about how it's been spent. At least you can be 80, 70% accurate for the meantime. But then from today, when you start tracking your expense, then things are going to be much easier for you. So now let's look at a practical example of how Amma completed this exercise. So Amma is a 23-year-old national service personnel, and this is how she completed her cash flow snapshot. Okay, so the part A is her total monthly income. So allowance is 715, and she has a side income which is 200 cedis a month. Then support from family is 300 cedis, and she doesn't have any bonuses, investment income, or other income. So at the end of the month, because she's a service personnel with a side business, she earns 1,215. That is her total monthly income. So now the part B is monthly expense breakdown. So now this is the breakdown of her expenses, and then whether the expense was fixed or flexible. And earlier on, we talked about the fixed expense and then the flexible expense. So now she realized that she spent 250 cedis on rent, 50 cedis on utilities, 200 cedis on food at home, 280 cedis on food outside, and like data and internet, she spent 60 cedis, phone credit 40 cedis, support to others, she doesn't spend on that. Entertainment, maybe movies, outings, events, she spent 120 cedis. So at the end of the day, her monthly expense are 1,450, 1,450, but her monthly income is 1,215. So now the part C, which is the gap, and I already talked about the gap, that the difference between your total income and your expense is the gap, and that gap will either give you financial. So as we all know, she earns 1,215 per month, and her total monthly expense is 1,450. So that means she has a deficit because she will be owing money 235 and always be looking for money. She will always be under stress, not having money and trying to borrow money from people so that she can survive. So expenses, and she realized that she has been overspending. This is what she said. I am shocked. I didn't realize I'm spending 235 cedis more than I earn every month. No wonder the 20 biggest surprise is food outside, 280 cedis. That is more than my rent. I always thought it was just 20 cedis here and there, but it adds 280 cedis monthly. I'm either using my parents' money, and this has to change immediately. So you see that it was just 20 cedis here and there. You see it has come here again. You might be thinking that, oh, let me just today there, I'm tired, I can't cook, so let me just go outside and buy food. After all, see 20 cedis there next year. Well, at the end of the day, she realized that at the end of the month, she's spending 280 cedis, which is even higher than her rent. And that is why she ends up using her parents' money for emergencies and all that. And that is why she's not eating properly. And if you're a student, I'm sure you've had this experience before. If you receive your stipend, let's say at the beginning of the month, then that means during the 20th to the 30th, you normally feel broke, always looking towards money because you are kind of broke. And this is the reason, because you don't track your expense. And at the end of the day, you are overspending. So now, this exercise, which is exercise 3, it has part A, part B, and part C. So you first have to identify your monthly income. Your salary, if you have side income, you add it to it. If there's any investment income, if there's any bonus, support from family or anything, you add it, and then you add the total income. Then month B, which is part B, which is the monthly expense breakdown. So you allocate the amount you've been spending on rent. If you don't spend on rent, just put dash there. Utilities, food at home, food outside, and all that. So that means you also have your total monthly expense at the end of the month. So now you are going to put all together to identify the gap, your total monthly income, your total monthly expense, and then you are either going to have monthly surplus or deficit. So if you subtract your expense from your income and it's positive, then that means you have surplus. That means you have remaining money that you can use it for savings or investment. But if you have negative, that means you are overspending. Yes, that means you are overspending. Then the part D is interpretation and reflection. So here you are going to reflect, okay, which is the part. Okay, so question you can ask. Okay. Oh, yes, yes. So the fixed expense can be referred as need and then the flexible as one. But it's more than that. The fixed is like you know that this week, no matter what, I'll spend 300 cedis on this expense, maybe rent. maybe utilities. That one, you know that the exact amount is fixed, but then the flexible ones can be a need, like food. You can decide that, okay, this week I'm going to be preparing food. I'm going to be cooking food. I'm not going to be buying. That means in as much as it's flexible, but it's still a need. And you can also decide that, okay, this is a want, but then it is fixed. It is a fixed expense. Let me give you an example. If you have a monthly subscription, maybe Netflix, which is, let's say, 100 cedis, it is a fixed expense because every month you are paying 100 cedis, but it's not necessarily a need, it's rather a want, because subscription there, without it you can still live. So a need can be either fixed or flexible, and then the same as want, it can either be fixed or flexible. Okay, so Frederick, you can ask your question.
Okay, so mine is not a question, but an addition. We call it recurring expenditure. So it's a recurring expenditure because every month you acquire it. It can be a fixed rate, as you were saying with the subscription, DSTV and stuff. It can be a fixed rate, but something is a recurring expenditure, but the rate varies, like food. Then a bit, no matter what you eat, but the amount
Yeah.
or the price of food you buy might differ from time to time. Today you buy, let's say, shawarma this amount. Tomorrow you buy pizza this amount. They are different prices, but the fact that they repeat makes it a recurring expenditure. That's what I want to say. Thank you.
Exactly, exactly. And thank you so much for your contribution to that. You are always welcome. Everyone is welcome to add or make contribution towards our section. It's open, and I'm not the only one supposed to talk. So, Frederick, I appreciate your contribution towards that, and you are really, really right on that. So, is there any question, or I can continue? If I can continue, please show me your thumb so that I'll just move on. Okay, so the part D of this exercise is interpretation and reflection. So number one says, looking at these numbers, I will describe my financial situation as we have clear but tight. That is, you know your numbers, but there's a little room for error. Unclear and stressful. That is, you do not know what it look like this. Then comfortable but unmanaged. That is when your income exceed your expense, but you do not track intentionally. Then the option is stable and intentional. I am in control and building towards goals. Then the number two is write one paragraph about what you see, what surprised you, what confirmed what you suspected, what feels manageable, what feels overwhelming. That is after checking your numbers and all that. That is when you are going to reflect on this. Then number three says, if your income stopped today, how long will you sustain your current lifestyle? So you have to take one, less than 1 week, less than a month, 1 to 3 months, more than 3 months. Then how does this reality makes you feel? Then number four is based on this snapshot, what is the one change that will have the biggest impact of your financial health? So this is very important. So someone will be like, okay, so after checking or tracking my expense, I realized that I have been spending a lot of money on data and internet every day, 20 CDs. So what I'll do is I'll buy the bigger one, maybe the 200 CDs data, so that I can use it for a month instead of buying pieces 20 CDs each day. So everyone will write what they want to write. And then we have an interpretation guide for your gap. So if you have a deficit, that is you are spending more than you earn, then please you have to understand this. This is unsustainable. You are either using your savings, borrowing money from people, or you are accumulating debt. Immediate action is really important, and that is why in week 4 we have a specific plan to close this gap. As I said, week 4 is all about exercises. So next 2 weeks we are going to talk about that. And then the second one is if you have a small surplus, maybe less than 10% of income, then that means you are financially fragile. One unexpected expense could push you into deficit. Your priority is building this margin intentionally. If you have a moderate surplus, 10 to 15 or 10 to 20% of income, then you have breathing room, but not security. Focus on protecting this surplus and converting it into consistent savings and investments. But if you have a large surplus, more than 20%, that means you have significant margin. Now, the question is whether you are using it intentionally or allowing it to disappear through lifestyle inflation and unconscious spending. So that is exercise 3. You are going to input your income, your expense, know the gap, whether it's deficit or surplus, and you are going to reflect on it. So now, exercise 4, which is the disappearing money audit. So I think earlier when someone asked how we can avoid overspending. So this will really help you. This exercise is focused on that, which is the disappearing money audit. So most people underrate recurring expenses. This exercise uncovers them. So part A is you have to list every subscription, membership, or recurring charge you currently pay for. And not only subscription or membership, it could be data that you normally buy, it could be the food that you always buying and all that. So you have this is an example. Netflix amount is 50 days monthly. Then there's a column for do I actively use this? If yes or no. Then you rate the value. How important is it? From 1 to 10. Yes, from 1 to 10. So now, once you've been able to list all of them and you've been able to rate how important these services or subscriptions are, part B is how much are you spending or how much am I spending monthly on services I rated below 5? So if let's say there are 7 services in all and you rated 3 services under 5, you are going to input the total number. Let's say one was 100 cedis, one was 50, one was 20. So in all, it's going to be 170 cedis. So you are going to input it here. Then the second question is, how much am I spending on services I do not actively use? So services that you don't use. You see, there's a column here that says, do I actively use this? Yes or no? So all the services that you don't use, you input the total amount here. And if I cancel everything rated below 5 or unused, I will save. So this is about calculation. So all the services that you rated below 5, if you add them together, that means in a month, how much will you be saving? And in a year, how much are you going to save? So once you get the total for the month, you just multiply it by 12 and you'll be able to get the total amount you'll be able to save per year. Then the last question is, what will I do with that money if I redirected it intentionally? So the purpose is for you to be able to identify the recurring expenses, the one that has been leaking your money, so that you try to cut it off, use that money to save or to use it for investment for the long term. So that is it. And then the action commitment is I commit to canceling this subscription this week. So you are going to write all the subscriptions that after analyzing all this, knowing that initially maybe you thought it's very important, but after analyzing this realize that, oh, it's not really important, so I can cut it off. So you are going to write all the expenses here. So these are the exercise for this week, just 2 exercise. And for exercise 1 we have part A to part D, but for exercise 4 we have only part A and B. Very simple for everyone to do. So once we are done, at the end of the week, which is by Sunday, 5 p.m. or 6 p.m., as you are supposed to share a summary of what you've learned so far for this week. And this is the prompt you are going to use for the summary. So you are going to talk about the services that you don't use. So please don't just write maybe food or transport, but give the exact amount. Tell us what it represents about your habit and commit publicly to one specific action you take this week to change that. So once you have done that, then you tell us what it represents about your habit and the specific action you take this week to change that. So last week of the week provide a summary of what they've done for the week after doing the exercise and all that. And this is the prompt that you are going to use. And for this one, everyone is working towards what we are doing, and it will serve as a source of motivation. But then, for now, we are going to share the Word document. That one too, you are supposed to fill everything and then share it with, send it to either of us, either me or Sebastian, so that we can see that yes, everyone really did the work or the exercise in the workbook. So we are supposed to do two different things. The first one is to use this prompt to provide a summary and share it on the platform. That one everyone is expected to do. Then the second one is when we share the workbook with you, you're supposed to fill it with everything, with your data and everything, and then you share it with me or Sebastian so that we can confirm that yes, indeed, you did what you are expected to do. So that is it for tonight, and I'll welcome any additional questions. Hi, please, any question? Okay, Frederick, please, you can ask your question.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, okay. So right now, we that after Sunday, and we go chop with we and our friends. You know, are you guys saying that it's not financially disciplined or prudent for us to do that based on necessity? We go to stop for what? I'm confused.
It's very, you see, it's very important, very, very important. I mean, that is why you have to put in structure. Okay, when you put in structure, everything will make. Sebastian, please can you off your voice? I mean, it's confusing.
Oh, okay, sir.
Hi, Sebastian.
Yeah, you said I should.
Okay, please can you off? Yes, can you mute your? Okay, thank you. Now everything is clear. So, Frederick, I understand you. It's very important, I mean, to spend the money that you've worked on for. Imagine the whole month you've stressed from 9 to 5 working, sir. Then Ahmed is telling you that when you have your money, you have to manage it well and all that. But you can, that is why, like, putting in structure in place. And we are going to talk about that. So, there are a lot of formulas. Normally, they have the 50, 30, 20. 50 for your needs, 30 for your wants, 20 for investment. So if you are using this formula, then the wants, which is the 30%, you can include all the money that you want to enjoy, spend. That one can be under the 30% for your wants. But then nowadays, I've developed some formulas that is, I mean, more efficient than the 50, 30, 20. So when it's time, we are going to delve into that. So for now, we just want you to understand your behavior towards money, track your income and expense, know the expenses that are unnecessary, cut them off so that at the end, see, if you even cut them off, at the end of the month, you realize that, hey, I have a lot of balance or, I mean, surplus in my account, which I can spend or something as such. So it's very important for you to do that so that at the end of the week or at the end of the month, you won't be broke. You won't be borrowing money. Oh, Charlie, give me 10 cedi, 500 cedis. I'll send you when I receive my salary or something as such. I hope this is clear, Frederick.
Yes, but if I'm crying, that's like you cannot be spent. That's my problem. If they need some, just spend it, but know that it is intentional. Like you know that you have planned for it. Don't do it out of impulse or because your friends are emotionally blackmailing you. Me and my friends like this, we have made it like part of our plan. Sunday after church, we all no go house straight. We dey go some bar before an area. We go chop food. That be all. So I know that okay, every Sunday after church, 40 cedis or 50 cedis, we still go five. Then I take that money set aside. At the end of every month, I know say 200 cedis set. We go that area. But not that out impulse buying or like your friends are emotionally blackmailing you, something that you know you can't afford or you now you didn't plan for. and they are forcing you because they are going and you don't go some, you feel left out, you are doing it. That's what I'm trying to cut across. Thank you.
Yes, see, I understand you. Okay. The time that I was talking about this, I said if it's not within your budget, but you know that every Sunday after church we spend. So you can add it to your budget. That one is not like you are spending above your or not within your budget. Because you know that hey, every Sunday the boys after church we are going to spend let's say 100 CDs. So that one is part of your budget. You can add it to your budget. But this scenario, we are talking about the expenses that you don't unexpected, the one that you don't even track, the one that are impulse. That's the one that we are talking about you cutting it off from your life. But if you know that, oh, every month I spend this, I mean, the community, we go maybe outreach and we spend this amount of money, you add it to your budget. That one, you know that, okay, this is within my budget. But if you be like, okay, every month we spend, so I'm not going to budget, I'll just go if we spend, that is it and all that. That will not give you the clarity that we are talking about here. We want you to be able to track your expense and all that. So that means if you are using a formula, that means okay, you can decide that every Sunday I'll be spending 100 cities and you add it to your budget, and that will make things clearer for you. So please, any other question? Any question, please? All right, so if there is no any other question, then I'll hand it over to Sebastian for him to engage our members here on what they've been able to, I mean, the insight for this evening. So please, Sebastian is going to call everyone here, especially those who didn't ask any question, for you to provide us with a brief insight of what you learned tonight. So Sebastian, please kindly take over.
All right. So thank you, Ahmed, for your presentation. Let me start from Frederick. So I believe everything that Ahmed said is clear. It's all about budgeting, okay, and allocation. So once you do that, nobody is asking you not to go and chop your fufu on Sunday. You get it? Okay. And then there is a question. Yes, please. The workbook we are going to share the word. I mean the word file instead of the PDF. Okay. We understood the challenge the other day. So let's get into it. Let me see what I can call it. Okay, so Eunice, Eunice, please can you share your, I mean, your insight with us or a summary of the meeting? Hello, Eunice, please can you hear me? Okay, hello, I see you. I see you. If you can hear me, please. Hello, Judith. Hello, Judith. Please can you hear me? Ahmed, please confirm if you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay,
I think perhaps they are preparing for that.
all right, so I'll come back to you guys again. Richard, please can you share a summary with us?
Hello.
Yeah, hello, Richard.
Yeah, I joined late, but what I heard was that we should be conscious about we tracking our spending, right? It will help us to make a proper plan or to cut short some of the things that we don't really need here. This is what my contribution is.
All right, thank you, that's powerful. Yes, sir. If you can hear me, please share a summary with us.
Okay, so I also learned that you know how we say that little droplet of water makes a mighty ocean. Sometimes when we ignore the little in quote expenditures, the 10 cities, the 5 cities that we spend on unplanned
Jessica, please,
expenses in
can
the
you
whole.
pause for a moment? Sebastian, please, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Sorry.
Yeah, your voice, I don't know, but whenever you open your mute, like you unmute yourself,
All right.
your voice is, I mean, it's kind of double, so like it's confusing us. So maybe I don't know if you are closer to your PC or you are using two devices, it's kind of causing confusion. So please, if you can mute one so that when someone is talking, it's clear for everyone to hear.
All right. I get it. But I'm using only one device. I don't know why it's coming down.
Okay, so please, Jessica, you can continue. Thank you.
Please, am I clearer now? Am I clearer? Okay.
Yes, you are.
So I said that I learned that little droplets of water makes a mighty ocean, like we've heard before. When it has to do with the unplanned expenses, like the 10 cities, the 5 cities, something that we just want to spend on the little things. If we are not careful, by the end of the month, it will amount to something very big. And so it's very important that we actually track our expenses, like we put pen and paper on it in quotes and then make the most out of it. That's what I learned. Thank you.
Okay, so let me take two more. Uh, two more. Is Judith back? Judith, can you hear us? Okay, and Eunice, are you here now? Okay, so listen, I think I'll end it here, but then if there is any other questions, maybe you have something to share, you can do that before we end the section. Hello, anything? Hello?
Okay, so I think no one has a question.
Okay, so if
Sebastian, please, can you? Okay, so I believe no one has a question, and we spent it's all about taking action to know your income and then your expense, know the gap and how you can cut them off. And the exercise in this workbook is going to help you to do that. So once we have that, so that you can write inside it, edit it, and it's optional. If you also think maybe writing in the book with maybe pen will be the best your own pen to be writing it. That's why I share with you. But we just want accountability. That is why we want you can see that yes, every member in this group is taking action towards their financial stability and freedom, and that is why that's the core reason why we want everyone to work on the workbook and send it to us. But if for your own sake of reflection, you want to maybe print it out and even be writing it so that you can track it well, then we absolutely have no problem with that. So on this note, I want to thank you once again for making it here. I know some of us are students, some of us are working professionals, and to dedicate an hour in the evening to do that is very, very difficult. So I want to really thank you and appreciate you for making time and to continue being active and taking action uh, towards your finances. So Daniel Jima, please, you have a question or you've raised your hand, you can ask your question.
Yes, please. I have a question. I'm sorry, I'm late. Yes, so I remember during the introduction, Sebastian talked about an app he uses for tracking his expenses. So I think it would be important for him to tell us about the app so we can equally use.
Please come again. You want the app for tracking the expense.
Yes, please.
Okay, so if you remember last week we talked. Oh, Sebastian, please can you off your. Okay, so if you remember last week, we talked that we had a partnership with an organization, and what they'll be doing is to generate a dashboard for tracking expense. So once you track your expense, you will be able to. I don't know if let me try to see if I can see a sample of that so that I share it as so it's in an Excel format. All that you have to do is input your income and expense, and at the end of the month, it's going to. So let me try to see if I can get access to it, and I'll show it so that we all have a look at how it looks like. It's been a while that the person sent it to me, so I'm trying to see. So, like, that will help you to track, and a dashboard will help you to identify clearly in figures that, okay, or in graphs that, okay, so this income is really high, like this expense is high and all that, and I have to reduce it on all that. So, we are talking with the guy very soon is going to work on the dashboard so that you can share with everyone here and you can use that to track your expenses and all that. So we are going to be sharing that very soon. For now, I haven't been able to download. I'm coming. Let me see if I can show you how it's look like so that you can have understanding of it. Let's see. Unfortunately, I'm not able to download it. I don't know the problem. I think it's been a while, so I've not been able to download it. But very soon, I'm going to share it with everyone here so that you can have access to it and you'll be using that to be tracking your expenses and all that. So it shouldn't be a problem. I think by beginning of next week, it should be ready and we will share it with everyone so that you can be using it to track your expenses and all that. Please, I hope your question is answered.
Yes, please. Yes, please. Thank you.
All right, you're welcome. So, as I said, I want to thank you once again for making it here and also for dedicating a part of your time to towards this community. So, I'll share the workbook right after this meeting and you can start taking action doing the exercise. And whenever you face any challenge, please feel free to reach out to me or my partner Sebastian, and we are always ready to help you towards that. So, Sebastian, if you have any final word, please, over to you now.
Right. So I don't have anything, but then one thing that I took from your presentation was whether you track or you check your numbers, right? They are always going to exist, or it's always going to exist. So let's all make sure we are doing that, and then we know our numbers and we know our stand as well. Yeah. I hope you heard me. Hello.
Yeah, so Sebastian, I think this evening you're having a network problem. So maybe that is why we couldn't hear you for the past 15 seconds or so. Okay, so let's wrap everything up. Okay, I believe we are really tired. So, on this note, we say a very big thank you to everyone for making it, and we'll continue the conversation on our platform. Thank you once again, and I say to everyone here, good evening and have a great night. Bye.